Hey, you're listening to the SBP Podcast Mobile Filmmaking. I'm your host, Susy Botello, and you're listening to episode 202. Hey, it's nice to be back talking to you guys. Just a one-on-one, right? Hey, I got a topic I wanted to discuss with you, something I wanted to share. I was on social media. I was on Threads, actually, and someone posted something about how long it takes to engage your audience with videos. And I thought, I would never call myself some sort of expert on pretty much anything, but that's just me, right? But the one thing that I do have is some experience in this, experience working in video production for a long time, and also studying this stuff when I was in college. And this person said that it was, according to what they had found out, it was 30 seconds that you have. And I reminded myself that, no, not really. I mean, people leave a lot sooner than that. And I felt like I was crushing the whole concept because I made a comment and I said, actually, it's more like 4 seconds. And that's what I've learned in my video production. And I felt like, gosh, that's just so disheartening. That's such a big gap, right? To go from 30 seconds to 4 seconds. And that also might feel like, oh my God, 4 seconds, that's it? But that's a truth from my professional perspective, from my professional experience. But then I'm thinking about it, I'm going, well, actually, because I do this a lot, it depends. And it does. And so I thought, why? I can't discuss this on social media. Why go there? It's limited. So let me come to here and share this with you guys. Maybe you guys can appreciate this. Maybe this might help some of you with your videos. And let's, look, ready or not, let's go. Let's talk about this. You ready? Let's go. Okay, so the topic of this episode is, how long do you have to engage someone with your video? Well, first of all, let me say, I hope this information will help you focus on how to capture your viewers' attention and a little more beyond that, because obviously you're not just trying to grab them at the beginning and then let them go. What you're trying to do is basically keep their attention, but it starts at the beginning, right? So before this episode ends, I'm going to share a few quick ideas with you and some tactics that you can use to keep your viewers engaged even longer. I want to share with you a formula, kind of a formula, a rule, but not really a rule. It kind of depends, right? It depends on something I learned in my journalism writing class in college. And it's called the 5 W's. The 5 W's was something that was engraved in my journalism writing classes. Every day that we went to class, we had this list of terms that we had to memorize. And in journalism for writing, there's different things, like different terms that mean different things that apply to writing for journalism. But this one in particular, it falls into place because I use it for just about everything that I create. I always take these into account. And the 5 W's, who, what, when, where, and why, these are really, really important. And I hope that this will be useful to you to focus on this, because to answer the question, right, of how long you have to engage someone with your video, there are 2 of these 5 W's that are already answered in this episode for this topic. One of them is what, right? The first W, what? What is this video? right? The video that you're creating, the one that you're planning to create, right? To produce, to make. And that is the what. So that's solid. That's what we're talking about here. That's the first W. Who, the next W, who is not, well, I bet you're thinking, me. No, it's not you, unfortunately. It's your viewer. So what is the video? Who is your viewer? And now we can move on to the next three, right? And that's where, when, and why. Where is sort of like, where are they watching? Not where are you, or where is this video taking place as far as like where you shot it. It's where they are watching the video, because that has a lot to do with it. When? Is it live or is it a premiere? That's two examples of what I mean by when. Why? Why are they watching? Like, for example, are they on a website? Did an algorithm on YouTube present you to them? Or is it an event? Are they watching it with their friends? Just sort of, hey, check out this video. Whatever it is, that's the three other W's that we're going to focus on. That hopefully if you focus on it, it'll help you with figuring out how long that beginning needs to be to attract someone, and how to go about creating a video that actually captivates and holds your viewers' attention. Now, the going rule of thumb in my video production class and work, as I said before, was 4 seconds. And that's at the moment that the video is playing, not after credits, if there are even credits. One thing, though, to note is dialogue. If you can create a really cool dialogue, an interesting conversation, that is also very helpful at the beginning. And I'll share why in a second here. But let's go through some of these scenarios to gauge the rule for your video. So I mentioned credits, right? I want to kind of talk about that for a second, because credits are really, for videos, they're really unnecessary, especially opening credits. You don't need them at the beginning most of the time, but it depends. Sometimes they're an integral part of your introduction, right? So depending on the content of your video, okay, so you're telling a story in every video, okay? You all know me, it's all about stories, right? And you may want to open your video with a prominent credit to someone or something. And I want to explain that so that you understand what I'm saying here. So for example, let's say that your video is produced by your school, your school's video department. And this is obviously if you're in school. So you'll want to put that out first to get the students, and you excited, because essentially what you're saying in the video is, this is you. This is your school. You're a part of this school. You're a part of this video. And so that's one way to attract people, is to connect the video through the credit, the opening title or something to them. So that might be an instance where you want to have some sort of credit. But the reason that credits aren't necessary most of the time, for example, in movies, right? And I know we're not talking about movies, but this is an example. In movies, right? So in movies, you open sometimes with an action in progression. That's kind of like what I like to call it. Action in progression. That means that it's something that is happening that is in progress, right? It's a sequence of something that has happened, sort of a timeline of something, and it keeps you engaged. It could be a car chase, a fight, a murder victim who's trying to escape their attacker, like Scream with a phone call, right? Those things keep you engaged. It's action in progression. But and that's a very common way to keep your viewers engaged if you're making a film. But it's also good for videos, because The viewer is asking questions in their head, and they need to answer those questions. And when they're answering those questions, they're looking for that answer in you, in the story, in the video that you're presenting. So it keeps them engaged. Obviously, all movies don't begin with an action, and neither do all videos, for sure. But sometimes it's just the most typical way of starting and getting someone's engagement, and, kind of like throw out the hook and reel them in. Sometimes you can do that with your video, though. A little bit of the same tactic. So one way to engage a viewer with your video is to think about a sequence that keeps the viewer engaged through curiosity. Curiosity is the best and most, it's psychological, but it really keeps people watching. But the curiosity of something you could put in a sequence in your video could be as simple as someone, let's say that they arrive at a location and they walk through an alley, they enter a gate, they go up a dark staircase inside a building. That's action in progression. From here to here to here to here, your viewer is kept sort of like, what's happening next? And one thing that happens psychologically that you should know is our minds play faster than anything you can put on video. So our minds are thinking way ahead of what's happening in the video. That's why 4 seconds may seem like that's nothing. But if you start and you think about 4 seconds, just play any video, play any film, play a song, play anything, and think about it and count 4 seconds. That's actually a long time. You can include a lot in 4 seconds. So I learned this perspective in cinematography because one of the things that you learn in cinematography is how to shoot in a way that you're thinking about the juxtaposition of a sequence of shots, right? And cinematography, the angles and all these things have a lot to do with it, but this is not what this conversation is about. But just think about that. Like that little sequence that I told you earlier, you can shoot that in an interesting angle and it could send a message to your viewer that something interesting, something scary, something cool is going to happen, something grand, shots of buildings from the bottom up, the angle of the staircase that you're shooting. And all those things are really interesting, shooting close-ups of their feet going up the stairs or their hands holding onto the railing, shooting them from the top down, all kinds of things. They play into that creativity of the shots that are in your sequence that are going to engage your viewers at the beginning. I feel like I said that all in one breath. All right, so let's go here. Where are they watching this video? Now, let's not go into what happens if someone is at home alone and bored, because that, for me, for example, in my opinion, when someone is bored, it's already really hard to get them engaged. So congratulations if you can get someone who's bored engaged in your video, but don't focus on that as where they're watching it, because that's a state of being. That's not really a location. I will just use this as an example. If you're out going to eat with your friend and you're kind of bored, just looking for the place to eat, you're never going to find the place to eat that you can both agree on. There's no excitement in it. I've done this with people where we drive all the way up and down the street and there are hundreds of places to eat and nothing seems good enough, And so forget about that one, okay? But let's just say that where happens to be, let's say that the video is part of a lecture or a physical in-person event. Now, you have a longer time to engage with your viewer because obviously they are there for a reason. They expect that video. Most likely that video is introduced, They're sitting with other people. Sitting with other people also helps people engage with your video, and their expectations are, hey, cool, we're watching a video together, but there's also this thing like someone can sit there and be stuck in their seat, right? But don't take that to heart. Don't say, okay, because it's in an in-person event, that means that people are going to be totally engaged, because what happens is once their brain turns off from your video, you've lost them. I mean, their mind is daydreaming, thinking about something. They're messing around with their phone. They're looking around, you've lost them. So even though you have more time, you still have to engage your viewer when it's an in-person event. And it's why I mentioned the scenario in the opening sequence earlier, because no matter where they are watching, you can hook them and begin to reel them in slowly through the story that you are telling. So right there, where they are is a little bit, I don't know, it's like maybe it can be longer than 4 seconds. When? Let's talk about when. Before you have a viewer for your video, you have nothing, right? I mean, you've created a video. You may have created a wonderful video, a great story, and it may be really engaging from the start. But if you don't have a video, no one is watching it but you, right? So when is kind of important. So before you can have the viewer, you have to think about when you can grab their attention. And that seems a little confusing to you. So let me share an example. Have you ever gone to a street party? So the street, if you haven't been, and by the way, you should. If there's ever one around you, they're a lot of fun. It's a little bit like a carnival on the street. The street is blocked off to traffic. The community is all over the street. There are vendors lined up, at least the ones that I've gone to, along both sides. And what I really remember the most are the bands, right? There's sometimes in these street parties or block parties, as they're also called, there are bands that are playing in, usually there are, if the street is long, it'll be one at the entrance, close to the entrance, and another one close to the end of the street so that they're not, bouncing off each other with the sound. But what I remember are the bands. And these are not like famous bands. You're not going to get Taylor Swift or something like that at one of these, but you're going to get usually local bands, right? And these local bands they appreciate these locations because they want you to know about them. And you may never hear their songs if you don't happen to be there. So when the event is over, you're either going to remember them and you're going to seek them out if you like them, or you're going to forget about them. And when it comes to your videos, when people are watching matters. It matters a lot. So I'll use the International Mobile Film Festival as an example, because I can, because I run it and I know how it works. And I take great care to engage you in the event and keep you engaged so that your films get engagement. It's a vibe. It's an energy. The festival takes place on a weekend, once a year. And when people who also have films screening at the film festival come together, they're going to watch your film and engage with them. They have this expectation that when I curate the program, right, that when we do that, our festival, that we're not going to select bad films for you guys to watch. So this is an advantage over an algorithm online. So if you can get into some of these events and get your videos there, that also matters. It'll help you get more engagement. You have a better chance at people watching them in full than you do on a video on a website that you sort of bump into. And I'm not knocking videos on websites, by the way. That's a great place to have them. Another example is a live event, whether it's online or not. But let's say it is, because it's more common to have a live video event online, right? Hey, we're going live. You're going to publicize the video, most likely. It'll take place at such and such time. And at that time, your video goes live. You or a presenter is live on screen, or perhaps you're presenting your attendance to an event. Live is as it happens, but these are more engaging and you have more time. So the 4-second rule sort of goes out the window on something like this, on a live video, because things are happening live and psychologically you want to see how that progresses. And so another form of live video event is that it resembles a premiere, but a premiere means it's the first time that video publishes or it's presented online or in person at an event. But you kind of do the same thing. You publicize it, right, as well. Like, it's a premiere. This is the first time. So when people watch your video that was produced a long time ago, it's about timeliness. So it's not maybe the first time that this video comes out, but it's the first time that it comes up. So, for example, when an event happens that captures the attention of people, that they sometimes go out and they seek videos around that event, right? Sometimes a famous actor dies or a director, and people go out and they start watching their films. Another thing is like a holiday, right? I produced a short video on a Halloween. It was like about trick-or-treating. It was in a neighborhood with someone I know with their kids and their friends with kids. And I interviewed someone who decked out their house with cool decorations and effects and all of that. I put it in YouTube and I shared it on my social media, the next day, which was literally November 1st that year. And that video, every year around October, like yesterday, I looked at the views on my YouTube channel and people are watching it, all of a sudden. And that was a few years ago. So sometimes it's about that. And, keep track of that, because that also means that instead of just waiting for someone to find it, you can put it out again. Just share that video again. Hey, I shot this, a few years ago around Halloween. And so that's also another way to at least market your video. But when it comes to the 4-second rule, if someone, not just you, have an intention on what kind of video you're producing or making, if someone has the intent of finding your video because of the topic in your video, meaning that it's timely for them, they're going to wait a little more than 4 seconds before you turn them off and they go somewhere else, because they found you. And so they're feeling victorious. I found this video. Woohoo, right? And so all of a sudden it's like, well, hold on, let me prove myself victorious. Let me not disappoint myself. So you probably have more than 4 seconds, okay? And if it's in person or something like that, like at a Halloween event, you've got a little longer to do that. But that, again, it doesn't mean that you can just make it really boring at the beginning and expect that someone's going to watch your video. So, and by the way, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add that Halloween video on the notes for this episode, because I just said I should. And hey, it's October. Halloween is coming up. It's right around the corner. So I might as well share that video with you, right? All right. So sometimes and by the way, just because this is going on forever, it seems like, we're talking about when, okay? So that other question. Sometimes it's something else. Sometimes, guess what, by the way? Back to the Future. Have you heard about that movie? So Back to the Future, on October 21st, 2024, this year, and that's just around the corner, It's Back to the Future Day. I don't know if you know this, but I found out about that and I thought, oh, look at that. It's Back to the Future Day on October 21st. So mark your calendars. Now, originally it was 2015 and it just kind of went viral on social media. I think they even talked about it on the news, but it's a sort of like a national holiday now. Crazy, right? But if you're a serious fan of Back to the Future, then you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, it's the day that Marty McFly, Doc Brown, and all the other characters are celebrated. So now you know. So consider the when, because you'll have more time to engage a listener if you focus on that as well. Because again, it's their intention. That also matters. The type of video they're looking for, if they find you, they're going to want to listen more, as opposed to they just bumped into you, right? They'll have a purpose and a focus behind clicking that play button. Or they're watching a video during an event, like Halloween event that features your video. But sometimes that's a school or a company, an organization building, connecting people in a community. And it's usually around the holiday with your video or their own video produced by you. So when and where go together like sand and ocean at the beach. And you know what? That sounds really corny. And if you ever repeat that, yes, you can quote me, and that way people can blame me for being that corny. Okay, the why is a major factor. This is one of the trickiest ones, okay? Online, why are they clicking on your video? Why? If it's in person at an event, why they're there and why are they watching it, right? But most of us are publishing our videos online. So let's focus on that for a minute, because I know that that's what you expected me to talk about. That's what you expect to learn from when you clicked play on this episode. So I don't want to let you down, okay? Why someone clicks on your video, it's because how you entice them, right? Now, on YouTube, for example, you need a good thumbnail image. That's just good advice. Also, it's the title. The title is an attention grabber, just like a headline, right, on the news. But, not many people actually, let's talk about the title a little bit. Not many people talk about that. But you do want an engaging title, something that speaks to your viewer. But you don't want the title to be clickbait, because that's a real thing and it's a bit disturbing. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's a trend. People are onto it. As a matter of fact, it doesn't work as good as it used to. People are like, yeah, that's clickbait. And you know what? I'm not clicking. I'm not following it. I'm not falling for that. So you may get a view, but that viewer may never go back to watch your videos again. You tricked them, and no one likes to be tricked. Well, most of us are pretty forgettable about these things. The one thing that we just don't want to be unforgettable when we lie and trick people for our benefit. So try not to be cruel with your clickbait titles. So put some time into the title, though. When you focus on your title, by the way, just focus on it. Time and time again, you get better and you get faster at it. So that once you get faster at it, you can spend more time promoting your video with that cool and engaging title instead. So your title should fit your video, and it doesn't have to be complicated. And it probably shouldn't be complicated. Let me tell you, I'm trying so hard. It's very hard for me. So don't think you're alone in this. I'm horrible, I think, with my titles, and I'm trying to get better at it myself. I mean, look, the best titles, sometimes, if you can do this, it's one word. A one-word title. Imagine that. Like, who would have thought a movie with a title like Jaws right? Or Scream or Twister, right? These titles are like super short and to the point. So, yeah, I wish I was that good, but I'm working on it. We'll work on this together. How's that? Why someone is about to watch your video, that could have an effect on your engagement a lot. I can tell you with movie posters, which is another way, like a thumbnail, right? If you're on YouTube. But movie posters, I've been tricked with that one a lot. And when it comes to movies and movie posters, I can tell you right now, that 4-second rule is so real. I look at this movie poster, it's like super awesome. I'm like, wow, this looks so cinematic, quote unquote, right? And I click on the video and it's horrible. The sound is horrible. The quality of the video is horrible. And you haven't really engaged me in that first 4 seconds. By 3 seconds, I'm gone. That's how I am when I'm on streaming services. It's like, too many distractions on YouTube. They exist. They're real. They're there. They're there distracting you. All these videos, before you can even watch one of them. And so you have a lot of competition on YouTube to get people to click. Even during the video, while people are watching your video, not everybody opens up the video and double clicks on it to expand it. So it's just one video on your screen. And they certainly don't do it at the beginning of it, especially if you're using YouTube as Google for searches. What happens is people will click on it. Okay, no, this doesn't work for me. No, this doesn't work for me. And you really only have that first 4 seconds. That rule, when someone is using Google, right? YouTube as a search engine looking for a video of a particular thing, if they bump into yours and you've got a great thumbnail and they click on that video and you don't have them, you haven't grabbed them and engaged with them in some way in that first 4 seconds, they are leaving. They're on a mission. They're in the middle of an adventure. They're seeking something. And if you don't provide it to them, then goodbye. Now, listen, I'm telling you, this has happened with me. I've used YouTube to search for something, and I've bumped into some other video that captivates me, and it really doesn't have that much to do with what I really wanted, but it caught me. And by the time the video ended, I forgot what I was even searching for. So don't think that doesn't work, because it does. It works on me, for sure. The 5 W's are, like a rule of thumb, right? I use it I use it much more than getting video engagement, okay? I use it in just about everything I create. I don't have time to create that many videos for me, and I'm not a YouTuber. I have a YouTube channel, but I'm not a YouTuber. And so if you came to listen to this for the engagement and weren't thinking about the time that it takes to engage your viewers, or if you were wondering about how many seconds it takes to engage your viewers with your videos, just think about the 5 W's and you'll be, I think, more successful at engaging the right people at the right place at the right time. And don't forget that conversation or dialogue is very good to introduce people to your video. Words that are engaging. Now, that's not easy, but if you can do it, it works. It's part of that progression thing I was talking to you about earlier. So these are some ways that I've shared with you, which are some insights and some tips and tricks that will help you to engage your viewers and to keep them engaged. Just know for each one of these, it's a little different when it comes to how long a video should be. But if you focus on the 4-second rule, it at least will get you out on, it'll give you a head start, right? And don't forget that your entire video needs to be engaging. And that's why the 5 W's help you create a story, at least have your video feel like a story, because people connect more and more with the story than they do with anything else. And sometimes you are telling a story subconsciously anyways. So you might as well focus on the story. By the way, if you're still listening, are you still listening? Are you still here? Of course you are. If you just heard me ask you that, you're here. So I just wanted to say thank you for sticking around, listening to this whole episode. And if you find it useful, go to our Patreon or buy me a coffee and give a little thank you on our shop or become a patron or a member. I'd really appreciate that as much as I appreciate you listening. And that's like a gazillion tons. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope that this helps you.